She claimed she knew the owner. For VIP treatment, too bad I am the owner. And I made her regret it with a $4,000 bill. For as long as I could remember, Romano's had been more than just a restaurant, was the soul of my family. My grandparents had crossed an ocean from Italy in the 1970s with nothing but a battered suitcase and a dream. They built this place with their bare hands, serving hearty meals to locals before anyone believed in them. My parents nurtured that dream, expanding the tiny trattoria into a beacon of culinary excellence. I had practically grown up between these walls, bussing tables at 15, scrubbing kitchen floors, charming customers before I even knew how to properly tie a tie. When my parents retired to Florida, they handed the reins to me. It wasn't a gift. It was a responsibility woven into my blood. I had gambled everything to modernize the restaurantry, designed the space, revamped the menu, poured my life savings into marketing campaigns, and prayed each night that the city would fall in love with it again. It was slow at first, soul-crushingly slow. I lay awake many nights, sick with the fear that I had killed 3 generations' worth of legacy. But little by little, the tide shifted. A viral video, a few rave reviews, a celebrity or two casually dropping by. Suddenly, Romano's was no longer just a restaurant hit, was a phenomenon. Tonight was one of those nights, packed beyond capacity with energy and glittering expectations. And yet, amidst all the reserved names, velvet ropes, and whispered excitement, a storm was brewing at the front door. I could already feel it. Madison Carter wasn't just demanding a table. She was about to test everything I had fought tooth and nail to protect. For as long as I could remember, Romano's had been more than just a restaurant. It was the soul of my family. My grandparents had crossed an ocean from Italy in the 1970s with nothing but a battered suitcase and a dream. They built this place with their bare hands, serving hearty meals to locals before anyone believed in them. My parents nurtured that dream, expanding the tiny trattoria into a beacon of culinary excellence. I had practically grown up between these walls, bussing tables at 15, scrubbing kitchen floors, charming customers before I even knew how to properly tie a tie. When my parents retired to Florida, they handed the reins to me. It wasn't a gift. It was a responsibility woven into my blood. I had gambled everything to modernize. The restaurant redesigned the space, revamped the menu, poured my life savings into marketing campaigns, and prayed each night that the city would fall in love with it again. It was slow at first. Soul-crushingly slow. I lay awake many nights, sick with the fear that I had killed 3 generations' worth of legacy. But little by little, the tide shifted. A viral video, a few rave reviews, a celebrity or two casually dropping by. Suddenly, Romano's was no longer just a restaurant hit, was a phenomenon. Tonight was one of those nights, packed beyond capacity with energy and glittering expectations. And yet, amidst all the reserved names, velvet ropes, and whispered excitement, a storm was brewing at the front door. I could already feel it. Madison Carter wasn't just demanding a table. She was about to test everything I had fought tooth and nail to protect. Madison Carter moved through the restaurant like a shark circling its prey, her high heels clicking sharply against the marble floor with each confident step. The girls trailing behind her, Chloe, Brooke, Ashley, Taylor, and Paige, whispered excitedly, their eyes wide as they took in the glitz and glamour surrounding them. Madison tossed her hair over her shoulder, flashing the maitre d' dazzling but demanding smile. "We're here for our VIP table," she announced again, louder this time, her voice slicing through the hum of the room. Ethan said it would be waiting. Ethan. My name. The audacity made my hands itch with the need to react, but I forced myself to keep the mask of a professional host firmly in place. I offered a tight, measured smile. "I'm sorry, ma'am. May I have the name on the reservation?" Madison's perfectly sculpted brows lifted in mock offense. "Didn't you hear me? I don't need a reservation. The owner is my personal friend." He said he always keeps a table red, especially for me. I could feel the stares now. Curious glances from nearby guests, a few smirks from staff who recognized the storm brewing beneath my calm demeanor. Inside, my heart was no longer thudding with anticipation. It was vibrating with something much sharper. So, Madison Carter wanted to claim she knew the owner? Fine. She was about to get closer to the owner than she ever intended, and she wouldn't forget it for the rest of her life. In that charged moment, 3 distinct choices flashed through my mind like a rapid-fire slideshow. Option 1. Expose her lies immediately, shame her in front of the entire restaurant, and be done with it. Option 2. Sigh, roll my eyes, and let it go give her a table just to avoid a scene on one of our busiest nights of the year. But it was the third option that sent a cold, calculated thrill through me. Teach Madison Carter and her entourage a lesson they would never forget. A slow, satisfying lesson. I straightened my jacket, smoothing out a non-existent wrinkle, and plastered a wide, gracious smile across my face. "Of course, ma'am," I said smoothly, voice dipped in honey. "Please, right this way." The girls squealed behind her as I led them across the room. Every step was deliberate, drawing them deeper into the trap. I guided them to one of the most exclusive VIP tablesa semi-private alcove draped in velvet, candles flickering gently across the white linen, and a chilling price tag attached to its mere occupancy. Madison beamed like a queen ascending her throne. I even leaned in conspiratorially and whispered, "First 3 rounds of drinks in the house. A token of our special relationship." Her smirk was pure triumph. She didn't even hesitate when I politely asked for her ID and credit card standard procedure for VIP guests, I explained. She handed them over without a second thought, eager to flaunt her imagined importance. I tucked the card safely away, feeling the weight of it in my pocket like a promise. Tonight wasn't just about dinner anymore. Tonight, Madison Carter had walked willingly into a game she had no idea she was about to lose. The moment they settled in, the madness began. Madison and her loyal followers flipped through the VIP menu with giggles and gasps of excitement, oblivious to the subtle absence of any prices listed. They ordered without hesitation, rounds of imported cocktails, plates of rare West Coast oysters, black truffle risotto, aged Wagyu beef items, most guests reserved for once-in-a-lifetime celebrations. Every time I approached their table, they waved me down for more drinks, more appetizers, more luxury. Their laughter grew louder, sloppier, with each passing round. I moved with quiet efficiency, my face the perfect mask of polite professionalism, but inside, I counted every glass, every decadent bite. Madison leaned back in her chair, her cheeks flushed from the alcohol, and loudly mocked the servers nearby. "Imagine working a dead-end job like this," she snickered, not realizing her words cut deeper than she knew. I felt no guilt. Not anymore. Drink by drink, dish by dish, they were digging themselves deeper. They thought they were being treated like royalty. What they didn't realize was that every sip, every bite, was another gold coin dropped into a trap that was about to slam shuttered. When the night finally began to wind down, I approached their table with a polished black leather folder in hand, the final act of a show they hadn't even realized they were starring in. "Here you go, ladies," I said smoothly, laying the bill down in front of Madison with the same ceremony one might reserve for a royal decree. She laughed as she flipped it open, still floating on a cloud of cheap triumph until her eyes froze on the total. $4,232.23. The color drained from her face so fast I thought she might faint. The chatter around the table fell into stunned silence as the other girls leaned over to peek. "What? What is this?" Madison stammered, her voice cracking. I leaned in, keeping my tone light but firm. "Your full bill for the evening, ma'am. You'll notice the first 3 rounds of drinks are complimentary, as promised. I tapped the highlighted section at the top of the page. Everything else you ordered is listed here. She frantically scanned the itemized breakdown. Truffle risotto, specialty cocktails, oysters flown in that morning. It was all there, meticulously recorded. Madison's hands trembled as she snatched up her phone. I watched calmly as she disappeared to the restroom, no doubt hurriedly fabricating some poor attempt at proof she was friends with the owner. 10 minutes later, she returned, mascara smudged, face blotchy from crying, holding up her phone like it was a smoking gun. "See?" she snapped. "I texted the owner. He says you need to cut this bill in half." I took the phone, glanced at the obviously fake contact info, and smiled coldly. "Ma'am," I said, my voice dropping into an icy register, "that's not my number." I handed the phone back to Madison, who was now visibly shaking, her once cocky demeanor crumbling like a sandcastle against a rising tide. The other girls sat frozen, their faces a mix of horror and disbelief. I straightened, adjusting my cuffs with deliberate calmness, letting the weight of the moment settle heavily over the table. Then, in a voice loud enough for half the restaurant to hear, I said, "Let me clear up the confusion." I stepped closer, my gaze locking onto Madison's terrified eyes. "You don't know the owner." I paused, savoring the silence. "Because you're looking at him." A collective gasp rippled through the nearby tables. Even the bartenders paused mid-pour. "I am Ethan Romano," I continued, my voice hard as stone. "Owner of Romano's, grandson of its founder. And I have never, not once in my life, seen you before tonight." Madison's mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. The color that had drained from her cheeks returned now in blotchy, humiliating splotches. "You lied to get a table," I said coldly. "You belittled my staff. You tried to scam your way out of paying for what you consumed. And now, you will pay every cent of that biller. I will have no choice but to involve the authorities." Her hands fumbled for her purse, desperation setting in. The girls beside her whispered frantically, some pulling out crumpled bills, others simply staring in horror. There was no more laughter, no more fake glamour, only cold reality crashing down around them, swift, merciless, and utterly deserved. With trembling hands, Madison scribbled her signature across the bill, smearing a tear that had fallen onto the leather folder. Her friends, once so loud and confident, now silently pulled whatever cash they could find from their designer purses, stacking crumpled 20s and 10s on the table like a desperate offering. No one dared to look at me. No one dared to speak. As I collected the payment, I allowed myself one final, brief glance at the group. Madison sat there hollow-eyed, the remnants of her carefully crafted image shattered beyond repair. I turned and walked away without another word, the weight of the evening lifting off my shoulders like a storm finally breaking. As I passed the maitre d', I nodded subtly. He grinned back, knowing exactly what had just transpired. Back in my office, I carefully framed that receipt the $4,232.23 bill right above my desk, a silent reminder that respect is earned, not demanded. It wasn't about the money. It never was. It was about standing up for the countless workers who are looked down on every day simply for doing an honest job. In this life, titles mean little. Attitude means everything. And tonight, arrogance had been served, its bill cold, merciless, and well overdue.